And welcome to the Kitchings Table here on WBISLP 106.9 FM. As always, glad to be with you. Today is Tuesday, January 25th, and another great day, another great morning. If you're watching us on Facebook, we welcome you. If you're listening to us or watching us on Roku TV or GPAC 23, we also welcome you to our show this morning. Earl Kitchings, I'm your host, and always glad to be here with everyone listening and watching locally and around the world, because we are here to bring you another edition of the Kitchings Table. And what's in the kitchen or on the Kitchings Table today, you might ask what we're going to talk about. And again, last week we had a great caller to make a comment, and we thank her again for calling in. But today, the number is 326. No, that's not the lottery number. That's not your box 3, pick 3, none of that. Because the number 326 relates to today's topic. And today's topic is H2O on life support. H2O on life support. Now, for those of you who know what the chemical or the scientific name for H2O is, then you know we're talking about water. H2O, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen gives you water. But in today's time, as we continue to deal with what experts and scientists are saying is a global warning, a global issue, situations that are calling Mother Nature, our planet, to be just bombarded with so many things to diminish, take away, dilute, just mess up the elements, air, water, land. Water is going to be one of the most critical things we must take care of on this planet. It doesn't matter what part of the world you live in, what part of the world you may think you're okay, you have enough. The planet is in danger. And trust me, when I give you the number 326, well, Earl, what's 326? 326 million trillion gallons. 326 million trillion gallons. That's how much water is on this planet. That much water. And less than 3% of that amount, because 10% would be 32.6 million trillion. So you just keep winding the numbers back. So you get down into maybe 1 million or 2 million trillion gallons of water that is fresh water. Fresh water that you can consume, that you can use in your body, in your homes. The other 2/3 of the world's water is in our ice caps and glaciers. And when those ice caps and glaciers are starting to melt and flood those areas, you know, if you ever had, when you're drinking water, when you're making a drink and you fill the glass up with your favorite beverage, soft beverage, not alcoholic, but soft, and then you drop an ice cube in it, that water level raises in that glass, correct? When you drop another ice cube in there, that water level raises in that glass, correct? That's what it's like when these glaciers and ice caps start to fall and melt into the oceans. It causes that water level to rise up. And when that water level rises up, that means the water gets higher than the land in some places. So if you're living at sea level, that means the land and the water are basically on the same level. When you start melting that ice cap like you do with an ice cube and drop it in the water, it raises that water up, which means it can flood and overcome that land. But remember that number, 326 million trillion gallons. And in the simplest terms, water makes up 71% of the Earth's surface. 71%. That only leaves 29% for land. While, continents, lands, I mean, when you look at a globe, when you look at everything, it looks like, well, it's a lot of land, but there's more water than there is land. When the ice caps and the glaciers melt, more water comes up and rises up. The total volume of water on Earth is estimated, as I said, at 1.386 billion kilometers. And again, 2.5 of that is fresh water. So let me give you another trivia piece right here. There's enough water to fill about 670 zillion, I guess we can go into the zillion, gallon-sized milk containers. I'll just put it at zillion. It goes past trillion. Let's see, million, billion, trillion. Well, as this says million trillion, so I guess we can say zillion, million zillion. How about that? Million zillion gallon-sized milk containers. That's how much water there is on Earth. But if we don't take care of it, if we don't start controlling how we use it, it goes away. Or it becomes contaminated, or we just can't use it. We can't make it palatable for us to use. So on a daily basis, we use about 10 billions of fresh water worldwide. Daily, 10 billion tons of fresh water. A lot of organizations and environmentalists are saying that our water supply is dwindling, and we need to take it seriously. So when we talk about water in the United States, of course, we are blessed and lucky to have the safest treated water in the world. We've done that in the United States. I sometimes wonder, why can't we just do that everywhere around the world? Let the humanitarian side of people who have these things work to the sides where people don't have it. So if we have the safest treated water in the world, why can't we take some of that technology and utilize it in places where they need water the most? And of course, it's always accessible to us because all we have to do is what? Turn on that tap, and it's right there for making our coffee in the morning, for using our showers, using our bathrooms, when it's time to wash the car, when you want to power clean your sidewalks and driveways with pressure washing, or clean off your house, get those stains and mildew off your house. Water is always available here in America just by the turning of a tap. What would happen if that water supply got cut back drastically? What if it got cut back to 50%? How would that impact us in America? We have to be more conscious of this, and we have to be more caring to take care of this. The average American family uses more than 300 gallons of water per day. 300 gallons of water per day. Roughly 70% of that occurs indoors. So washing dishes, taking showers, using the restroom, whatever you're using it for. Nationally, water use amounts to 30% of household usage and can be much higher in drier parts of the country, like in the Southwest areas, Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, where they don't have a lot of water per se, and in more water intensive landscapes. For example, the area west, or the area out in the west, has the highest per capita residential use because of landscape irrigation. So when we talk about using this water, we have to talk about the fact that we consume quite a bit of water every day. And when we don't take care of that, when we don't become more environmentally savvy, if we don't become more caring of Mother Nature and what she provides to us, it goes away. And polluting water and misusing or overusage of water. These are the things that will cause us to have some hardships down the road if we are not careful. So we talk about the water usage in the homes, and we say how much water that residents uses. So just imagine in the city where you live, and all those homes and all those water taps and all those faucets and shower heads and bathrooms, and how much that all that water comes in every day. And then when you water your yards or water your plants or whatever you do with your water outside of indoors, how much of that water is used? And I know, think about when you get your utility bill, when it breaks it down by how much water usage. And I know for me, having an irrigation system definitely puts an additional strain on the water table. However, having an irrigation system helps to manage my water better, as opposed to just putting out a sprinkler and moving it from place to place to place, because a lot of water is used in an irrigation system to make sure you water your yards. And of course, if we don't water the yards, then we run into what we call, when the soil gets washed away, when there's no grass, the soil gets washed away. It runs into the gutters and into the curbs, and then it just goes into the system. So we need that grass in order to keep our land that we have our homes on from just washing away, eroding away, because if that erodes away, it will definitely start to move the foundation of that home. So it's a 1 + 1 + 1 kind of situation. One thing takes care of the other, which takes care of the other. And without that, we have problems. But here's a breakdown on the bulk usage of water as we use it in our lives and in our industries. The largest user or usage of water comes from thermoelectric power. 45% of it comes from that. So whatever we need water to use to generate electricity, hydroelectricity, whatever we're needing it to do to create that power source, 45% of the water is used for power. 32% is used for irrigation. And I'm not just talking about irrigation at your home, irrigation at businesses, irrigation at golf courses. A lot of water is spent irrigating golf courses. I know it's for relaxation and for fun. However, that irrigation part is part of this large equation of how much water usage is used on a regular basis. Then we get to the public supply, and it only consumes 12% of the total amount of water usage that is being used on a regular basis. But all in all, these three things constitute about 88% of where all the water usage that we use on a regular basis, where it goes and how it's used. 88%. Thermoelectric power, irrigation, public use. And I'm sure you're surprised to hear that public use is only 12% compared to irrigation, which is almost 3 times that. However, those were the facts as we got them off the internet today from our Wikipedia sources. And this is just information to provide to you to help us start to think more of being a economically friendly, environmentally safe, protecting our environment to the point where we are good stewards of what we have been blessed with. Now, this big blue marble called Earth in this universe is the only one of its kind. Another one's not coming. Once some of these resources are gone, they're gone. They're not coming back. For instance, the oil that's in the ground that we use to make gasolines and things of that nature, when all that oil is gone, there is no more. It's not coming back. If we don't take care of our water supply, if we don't start becoming more economically friendly, recycle better, be more resilient in taking care of how we use water on a regular basis, we're going to find ourselves in trouble. And countries who don't have what the United States has are in a lot of trouble already. Their water supplies are not anywhere like what we have in this country. And you must consider yourself, again, blessed that we have the safest and the best water supply system in the world. If we could pass that technology on to other places that need it, that truly need it, would the world be better? Could the world be better? Could we make better use of what's going on? Because the water is one thing, air is a whole nother thing, which is another show. That's a whole nother show when we start talking about the air and the quality of air and what's going on with it, because we know that that is another resource that this planet has that we must take care of. And that's why when the scientists are talking about global warming and the fact that the planet is warming up as opposed to cooling down, or at least leveling off like it once always was. You know, when you look at the strange phenomena that happen in the weather, and folks who don't want to believe or are in denial that the planet is warming up, well, as those glaciers, and the glaciers are only found perhaps in two places, the top of the world and the bottom of the world, which is the Arctic and the Antarctic, or Antarctica. And when that ice, all that ice starts to melt down and causes that rise in the water levels, what are we going to do? And then when we find, man destroying the water tables, for instance, like in the Amazon jungle, in the Amazon region, where they're just cutting down trees and destroying that part of the world and contaminating the water because they're cutting down all these trees, and just the soils and the minerals are washing away from the land into the water and contaminating or building up, a lot of mud, sludge, whatever's going on. That's causing more problems. And sadly enough, man, with all his power, sense, incredible thinking, and creativeness to invent things, it's almost like he just, man destroys it as much as he creates things to help make things better. And because of what man wants to do in garnering additional funds, money, these are the things that drive all of these reasons why some of the aspects of the resources, the environment are going downhill, and going downhill fast, because I want to make more money, so I'll destroy something for the sake of making more money. I'll contaminate something for the sake of making more money. When we think about the situation that happened in Flint, Michigan, where they got off one water supply and reverted to another, and they contaminated a whole city, where the city probably till this day is still working off bottled water, you can understand why it is so imperative that we take care of this critical resource. And in the pantry today, we're going to talk about the bottled water industry, because surprisingly, you're going to be surprised to hear just how long the bottled water industry has been around. But in today's time, it seems like it has been a phenomenal industry, but it's really not, because it's been around a long time. But the one thing that's made the difference probably is the way it's being brought out of the earth, packaged up, and resold to, our society. But again, we are talking about H2O and life support today. That's the title of our show. I thought it was important, being that, it's so much other stuff going on, politics and things. I was like, I don't want to talk about politics today. Let's talk about something that's going to maybe hit home and resonate with some people about how they take care of themselves and life as we know it. Because when life as we know it changes, especially here in this country, people will start to make different decisions about what they'll do and how they will do it. And of course, when people who don't have are in need, they'll go to any extreme to get what they need. They don't care what they have to do to get it. And the people who don't have, they are always at the bottom of the ladder, and they will suffer the most. So if we start working on taking care of ourselves and taking care of this planet a little bit better, because things are not changing, they are slowly deteriorating. We need to be good stewards of what we've been blessed to have, not only in America, but as a planet. So think about those things. Water, 326 million trillion gallons of water are on this planet, but only 2.5% of that is fresh water. The rest of it is salt water. So that means all the animals in the sea, they don't have to worry about losing the water. They have to worry about it being contaminated by man from the things man does. But we don't have a lot of fresh water on this planet to deal with. So if we lose a lot of that, then we're in trouble. This is the Kitchings Table. I'm Earl Kitchings, the host, brought to you every Tuesday morning here on WBISLP 106.9 FM, Facebook Live, Roku TV, and GPAC 23 also carry us. And we are always grateful to Miss Akila Thigpen and all the folks out there at Awesome Radio for bringing you this show on Tuesday mornings. And we hope it serves as some value to you and gives you something to pause and think about, because that is the key. Knowledge is power, and the more we have to think about, the better we can make our brains work, because when the brain is working very well, thinking and coming up with ideas and things of that nature, it is a good functioning organ. So we would always like to put some thoughts on your brain, in your mind, in your head, so that maybe you take it to someone you know and make them pause and think, and give them reason to rethink what they're doing or rethink their efforts about something they should be doing. So we'll now go into our pantry portion of our show today. H2O on life support, water that is. And we like to go into the bottled water industry here on the Kitchings Table today. And I thought talking about water and such a precious resource would be somewhat valuable to us today, especially with the wintertime, snow. Funny how the weather out on the West Coast can be so crazy. I mean, from mudslides to fires to snow to, man, it's just crazy out there. And then that shifting of the weather sends cold air and water this way. Rain turns into snow, of course, when it gets colder and goes up to the northeast and Midwest portions of the country. And I know you folks maybe in North Carolina have gotten your fair share of snow over the last week, but that snow melts, becomes water, goes back into the water table. So we're going to talk about the bottled water industry. And while you may think that the bottled water industry is relatively new, it has been around for a while. Maybe just not the way we see it, maybe not in the quantity that we see it, but it has been around for a while in different forms. Bottled water in America predates the country's independence, with records of water bottled and sold from Jackson's Spa in Boston in 1767. Records of water, bottled and sold from Jackson's Spa in Boston in 1767. The bottled water industry took off at the beginning of the 19th century when glass was being made, and the cost of glass became affordable so that bottles could be made, and it became practical for mass production and consumption. By 1856, over 7 million bottles of water were being produced annually at Saratoga Springs, one of the most popular bottled water sources, and at that time was selling for up to $1.75 per pint. In 2020, for the fifth year in a row, Bottled water ranks as the largest beverage category by volume in the United States, according to an article written by John G. Rodwan Jr. Plastic bottles in serving size containers became the most popular format. So those 16 and 20 ounce bottles that we tend to see all the time that we use at home, we buy them by the cases, we buy them by the 6-packs, 12-packs, 20 ounce, 8 ounce, 12 ounce liters. The driving overall growth of the category is accounting for the majority of the volume, yet other segments, including multi-serving bottles ranging from 1 to 2.5 gallons, sparkling water, and imports also registered growth in 2020. So as you can see, not only is the bottled water industry an industry that's been around for a while, maybe not at the levels that we use it today, but it's been around since 1767. Now, there weren't a whole lot of bottles back then. People were basically putting water in containers, buckets, or things of that nature. But now, over time, the industry has become a beverage giant. And who would have ever thought that, I know when I was growing up, the water that we consumed on a regular basis came from the tap in the kitchen. And when we were outside playing, and I know some of you remember this, because if you were outside playing as you were so instructed by the adults, parents in the house, go outside and play. When you got thirsty, there was only one source of water in the neighborhood. Now, everyone had one of these, but there was only one source, and it was called the water from the water hose that was connected to the spigot at the house. Now, of course, on warm and hot days, you had to let that thing run for about 15, 20 seconds, so all that hot water would run out of that hose. On cold days, you weren't drinking it as fast. But I don't think it ever crossed our minds, even when we used to go to the grocery stores with our parents, that bottled water on the shelves was an industry that we would take into effect, because you got all this free water. Well, really not free, because you got to pay the water bill. So that makes the water really not free, because when it comes to your house, you got to pay the bill for having that water connection. But ultimately, it was free because it wasn't packaged and bottled up. So you wanted water, you go fill a bottle. I remember having a water bottle, a designated bottle, glass bottle, because of course the water is going to get cold in glass, or a pitcher, and you fill up the water bottle or the pitcher with water from the tap, put it in the refrigerator, let it get cold. You got cold water. You use it. If you wanted to make the favorite drink of most households back in the day, Kool-Aid, you just filled it up, put the Kool-Aid in it, boom, you got something to drink. But to know that maybe we didn't even pay attention to the fact that there were bottled waters on the shelves in the grocery stores when we were coming up, just kind of mind-blowing. But now when you look at the fact that when water started being contaminated, or people start talking about fresh water, that the bottled water industry saw tremendous growth, and now they are all over the place with the number of bottled water companies that are bottling water. And of course, think about it. You have gallon bottles, 2-liter bottles, 1-liter bottle, ounce bottles. You have natural water, spring water, distilled water, water. There are all kinds of waters that are on the shelves. I mean, you go down the aisle and it's almost like 2/3 of that aisle is nothing but water, as opposed to maybe not that much back, some 50, 60 years ago. But as it stands, this is where we are. And the market value of the water in America is about $27 billion. Revenue from that is about almost $5 billion. Agriculture takes on 72% of the water that's used. In China uses about 79.4 billion cubic meters. The United States uses 209 billion cubic meters. That's a lot of water, but again, like I said, 326. Number of people worldwide with safely managed sanitation facilities, 4.2 billion. That takes in the United States and other domestic countries. 90% of the drinking water is basic drinking water. And the lowest tap water worldwide, the lowest price of tap water worldwide is in Saudi Arabia, and the highest price tap water is in Norway. Who would have thought? But this is the industry we're talking about, the bottled water industry. So I thought I would find out, well, what are the top bottled water companies? So I found two polls that I'm going to give you today, again, coming off the internet. So, and a couple of these water companies, bottled water companies, you may or may not have heard of, but bear with me. If you've heard of them, fine. If not, don't worry about it. And if you want to go online and do your own research to see what they're talking about and see where they line up, or just to see what company is in your region of this country and who you use the most or what bottled water you drink the most. Because I know here in Florida, I would have to say Zephyr Hills is probably the number one brand of water coming out of the Zephyr Hills Springs down in South Florida. But a lot of spring water is being turned into bottled water. So here are the polls as we look at them. One poll that I found on the internet, and we're going from number 10 to number 1, Arrowhead. I would assume that might be maybe in the Midwest or the Northeast. Then there's at 9 and 8 is Dasani and Aquafina, and I'll tell you more about those two brands in the next poll. Ice Mountain, number 7. Ethos, number 6. Life Water, number 5. Evian, number 4. Smart Water, a play on words, number 3. Essentia, number 2. And Fiji, number 1 in that particular poll. However, in another poll, going from 10 to 1, Danani is at 10. Hint is at 9. Nestle Waters is at 8. And Aquafina, which is produced by the PepsiCo brand, or Pepsi Cola, as is known on the stock market, PepsiCo. Aquafina from PepsiCo is at number 8. Dasani, which is bottled by the Coca-Cola Company, number 7. CeeLo by the AGA Group is number 6. Fiji Water, 5. Wahaha, which is a Wahaha Group, is number 3. Icelandic Water, which is based out of Europe, is number 2. And the Mountain Valley Spring Company is considered number 1 in that particular poll. So, polls vary from, who's doing them and where they find the information. But one of the things that's driving this bottled water industry, as I stated earlier, when it first started back in 1767 here in the United States, was the container. And the container went from bottles to now they are now plastic. And plastic is a recyclable product. However, it can be a product that causes problems in recycling if we don't recycle it enough. But packaging innovation is what this bottled water industry is all about. And they're constantly coming up with innovative ways to attract the consumers, you and I, to their product. Now, Fiji, unlike many other bottled water companies, has created a square plastic water bottle in small and large sizes. Most of the water bottles are in a cylinder shape, even in the liter bottles. And then, of course, the jug bottle shapes are the gallon jugs that you will see. But the packaging is what is driving the way the manufacturers are trying to get people to purchase their products. And it is important because it needs to be safe and healthy. And it also will affect the sales of the product. And of course, water is water, but the way it looks in a bottle, or the way the packaging looks, or the labels look, or, Fiji does a great job of screen printing their label onto their bottle. And that square bottle, it just has a look. Evian has a different look. So we look at that. Now, when we go to companies like spring water or sparkling water, Perrier remains the leader probably, because they are, the green bottles in the glass bottles. The sparkling water is probably that. But now you've got flavored water. So we've got regular water, natural spring water, sparkling water, and now we have flavored water. Or you can just take a flavor packet and flavor your bottled water that you have. Today, the bottled water manufacturers are increasingly choosing eco-friendly packaging formats and luxury formats because of the disposable plastic bottle concerns. And if we are recycling as we should be doing, then hopefully a lot of that goes into the recycled containers at your residence, at your home, so that it can be recycled by the recycling companies. However, if we're not doing that, again, we are straining Mother Earth and the resources that she makes available to us. So we need to do our part, because for all Mother Earth does for us, we need to do something for Mother Earth. So that was our pantry section of our show today. You're listening and watching the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio, WBISLP 106.9 FM, Facebook Live, Roku TV, and GPAC 23 are our other sources to be seen and heard every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And we welcome all our viewers and listeners to our show. Today's title of our show is H2O on water, on life support. Water on life support, because that is a critical resource that we need to be made mindful of and take care of. So now, going back to the water industry, the global water industry, of course, is one of the most important industries we have today, because it provides drinking water, wastewaters to a global population, but also provides water in industry and agriculture. And when you think about industry and agriculture and how it's used, of course, with agriculture, that would be a lot of irrigation. In industry, when you think about all the products that have to be made with water, cleaning products, food products, what you name, whatever has to be made from the industry, some water is used. If it's used to cool off something when they're making a product, because the tools they're using have to be cooled down to keep the tools cool in order to make products. But water is just used in a lot of different ways, used to make plastics, used to make products everywhere. You name it, it's being used some kind of way. And it states here that the agriculture sector alone basically takes up 3/4 of a global water withdrawals. Pressure on the water industry is expected to increase in coming years as the climate changes and shrinks and populations continue to grow. More people, you need more water. More people, less water, there's a problem. Strains on the water supplies and our aging water treatment systems. Aging water treatment systems. And as our president today is talking about the infrastructure of America. Some countries don't even have infrastructure. Some countries still are drawing water from wells. It is 2022. Why are people still having to go draw water from a well when there's an abundance of water in some of these places? It just needs to be developed. But our water treatment systems, and that is the water, that is the way we treat the water that we consume for drinking and for use in our bathrooms, can lead to a variety of consequences. High water prices that will ensure reliable and safe water supplies. Increase summer watering restrictions that also will become a problem. You know, some people just don't care about water restrictions. They'll water their yard whenever. My understanding, and what many people tend to do, is if you have an irrigation system, water your yard at night. Because when you water at night, it goes into the ground better because it's not evaporated from the heat and the sun, turning it into steam and bringing it back up into the atmosphere. So if you water at night, it stays in the ground, helps to irrigate and bring all the nutrition that your yards will need, your plants will need, and you minimize having to overwater because that sun will evaporate that water very quickly, especially when it's hot. Now, something else I would like to share with you is this. Seasonal loss of recreation areas like lakes and rivers when the human demand for water conflicts with environmental needs is a problem. Expensive water treatment projects to transport and store fresh water when local demand overcomes available capacity is a problem. Droughts happen somewhere in the country, everywhere climate changes and things of that nature to increase stress on water resources, to basically create problems with our water. So cities and states are coming together to try to make these problems go away because the efficiency and the conservation of our water sources are important. When our reservoirs and lakes and things of that nature and groundwater tables drop, water supplies for human health, consumption, and the environment are put at a serious risk. Lower water levels can contribute to higher water concentrations of natural and human pollutants. When we pollute the water table, it causes problems. When industry pollutes the rivers and streams, it causes problems. Less water going in the drains means more water available in the lakes, rivers, and streams that we use for recreation, wildlife use to survive. Using water more efficiently helps maintain supplies at safe levels, protecting the human needs and the environmental needs. So again, we just ask that you be more mindful of what's going on from a specific timeline. Be more conscious of what's going on in the world, in your communities, in your environment, because as we need to, then we can make sure we take care of our precious resources. And when we don't, we're going to have to do some other things. I'm going to just take a quick pause right now. I would ask if Akila, if you're listening, just give me a pause for about 30 seconds. I have one small thing I need to take care of real quick. I apologize, but I need to take about a 30-second break because I have a situation I need to clear up here before we continue our show. So Akila, if you are looking and listening, I would appreciate it if you could just give me 30 minutes, 30-minute break. If you can just pause me real quick or just come on and do that for me, I guarantee you I'll be right back. You're listening and watching the Kitchings Table here on Awesome Radio, WBISLP 106.9 FM. Facebook Live, Roku TV, and GPAC 23 are what we're doing. And I'm sorry that I had to give that announcement, but you know, when you're trying to juggle things, sometimes things don't always cooperate with you. And I was having a situation that I was trying to monitor here. So I'm going to go forward, but I guarantee you that I did not mean for that to happen. But going back to what we're talking about today, H2O on life support and and the value that we have and the need that we have, and wanting to make sure that we take care of all the things that are necessary to have a better life, you got to do your part. We all must do our part. We must contain and restrain ourselves from the overusage of water when we have to, consume it when we need to, and help others to manage the water better. And I think that will be one of the things we have to do. So Akila's going to give me a 30-second break real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back just like that. So I appreciate you bearing with me. I had to take care of that important thing. It's funny that we're talking about water today, and I had someone coming out to do some work here at my home, and the repairman was here, and I didn't want to lose him because it's been a week or two to get him out to do this fix on my irrigation system. So I'm trying to manage my water supply and do some things so that I don't just waste water. And I guarantee you that when the irrigation system comes back, we're back here. I thank you for bearing with me, talking about water and irrigation. I'm having some work done on my irrigation system, so I wanted to make sure that the gentleman knew I was here. But I'm wanting to maintain that. I had to do some work recently to redo my irrigation system on my yard, and when that sprinkler system is broken and that water just is shooting everywhere and it's not doing what it needs to do, you're wasting a lot of water. And when I get the water bill and see how much water that I'm consuming and it's being wasted because I'm not being a good steward of the water with my irrigation system, it pains me because I'm paying for use of water that's not being used properly. And then two, my system is not working properly and needs to be rectified because there's no need in having this system. And if you've got an irrigation system, I don't know about you in some places, but even if you don't turn your sprinkler system on, they're going to charge you that monthly fee. And I found that out the hard way because I'm like, I didn't even use any water. Like, well, sir, we still got to charge you because you're connected to the system. But I didn't use any water. Sir, we got to charge you no matter what. So they're going to get it one way or the other. So I got to make sure that system is operating. And I tell you, I had a situation where I was about to lose my yard for the second time. But once I got on the system with treating it with water and getting some chemicals to treat it, my yard came back. Everything is back to normal. It's a great thing to have a great yard because, man, the cost for resodding is tremendous. The cost for watering weeds is not a smart thing. And it's funny, weeds live no matter what the weather is. They're just as pretty and green as they want to be. No matter how cold it is, weeds continue to grow and are beautiful. But again, as we close out today's show, I would again share with you the number. 326 million trillion of gallons of water are on this planet. 2.5% are just fresh water. The rest of it is salt water. And if we don't take care of that 2.5% of that 326 million trillion, we're going to be in trouble. And we don't need that to be the case. So take today's show into account. Go check your water system, your irrigation system, check your plumbing, make sure all your things are in order, and start working on becoming better stewards of the water that we have in our lives, in our homes, in the way we use them, because Mother Nature is asking us, she's begging us, please help me help you. And that's what this show is about today. Let's help each other become better stewards of our water. So that was our program for today. This is the Kitchings Table, heard every Tuesday at 10 a.m. on WBIS LP 106.9 FM, Facebook Live, Roku TV, and GPAC. So until next week, I like to wish everybody to stay safe. If you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated and do something positive for somebody who you know. Make it a great day. We'll see you next time. Take care.